Hi friends, welcome to my channel. This is Loli. If you're new here, welcome. If you've been here for a while, I am so thankful for your support and welcome back. And today's video is part of a collaboration hosted by Amanda from 6 Kids and a Glue Gun and co-hosted by Didi's Art Workshop. We will discuss the challenge a little bit further later on, so for now, let's jump into the video. DIY number 1. For the first DIY, I used one of these love signs from the DollarTree. I removed the hanger. I tried everything to remove it. Eventually, I ended up just cutting it right off. And I took some of my Rust-Oleum linen white chalk paint and I did a heavy dry brush over the entire piece, including the little nooks and crannies. Then I took this scrap piece of paint stir stick that I had laying around and I'm going to paint it as well using my white paint. I'm doing the same thing as I did with the love sign. I'm going to just do a dry brush. And this is how it ended up. Then I took one of these scrap rose that I had laying around and I'm going to stick it right where the O goes and make sure to have the petals lay down flat and covering the entire O, and then I'm going to reinforce it with some hot glue in the back to make sure that it stays in place. And here it is. Now I'm going to attach both of them to the board that I painted earlier. I'm going to just put some hot glue in all the spots where the letters touch the plank. And we are not done yet. I'm going to take some of the antique wax and I'm going to apply it using a dry brush effect in all the little corners and edges of each letter, just to bring a little bit more dimension and to tie the colors more together with the other DIYs. Friends, this video is part of a playlist, so be sure that you click on the description box below so you can watch all the other videos and maximize your inspiration. And here it is, all completed. The camera really doesn't do it justice. It is so cute. It's rustic and delicate at the same time. I hope you love it as much as I do. DIY number 2. For this DIY, I used one of these chargers from the DollarTree and I painted with my Rust-Oleum linen white chalk paint. I gave it 3 coats, drying in between with my heat gun. I then took some of these hearts that I found at the DollarTree last year, leftover from last year, and I'm going to select the best 3. Some of them don't look quite as a heart, so I took the best 3 that I could find, and I took some of these berries from the DollarTree and I'm going to wrap them all around the 3 of these hearts. Since the hearts were so small and my spool of beads was so big, I just cut off a section that I thought will be enough to wrap around the entire thing, made a tinier spool, and it was easier for me to wrap the berries in this manner. Friends, don't forget to visit 6 Kids and a Glue Gun and Didi's Art Workshop. The link to their channels are in my description box below. If you enjoyed this video so far, please be sure to give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. It is free and it means the world to me. Once I was done with all 3 hearts, I placed them back into the charger, just looking at my placement, and then I decided we needed to do a little bit extra. So I dry brushed some antique wax in all of the little bumps. I just wanted to tie everything together and give this a little bit more interest and some depth by just highlighting all of the little details on the charger. I don't know, guys, I find something therapeutic on just watching something come to life as we paint. After all dried, I repositioned my hearts back in the charger and I switch them around a little bit because I have a plan for the top, so I wanted to make sure that everything was nice and cohesive and the best looking. So I took some hot glue and I added it to the back of my hearts and I started with the last heart. There you see me how I flipped it. I want the heart that's most pronounced to be in towards the middle, and then I attach the top one to my frame as well. Then I took some of this burlap ribbon from the Dollar Tree and I cut it in half, and I was trying to figure out the best placement, so I was wondering if I should just put each side on there or if I should just tie together both of the ribbons onto it, but they are making sure that the height is also the same, and I'm having a lot of ideas in my brain at that time. Then I decided to just tie one end together and then cut the two sides, and we are going to attach it to the back of our charger. But first I wanted to make it a little bit more rustic, so I tore off all the seams that I had, like stitching that I had at the ends, and I want this to be a little bit frayed, so I took out some of the pieces from the burlap just to give it a little bit of the frayed look. I was studying different ways of putting this, and then I decided to just put them both in one section right in the middle. So I added some hot glue to the middle of the charger, used my silicone spatula to press that down to make sure that the hot glue will seep through the burlap, and then I placed the other side on top of more hot glue and put them both together in the middle. Once that was done, I was ready to add a bow, so I took a piece of the burlap, cut it the same length as the charger, and again remove all the stitching off the corners. Also removed a couple of threads from the burlap just to give it that frayed look, and I'm going to use this to make a bow. I took some hot glue, added it to the top of the charger, and pressed down the burlap right at the middle. Again, I used my little silicone spatula, just making sure that I didn't burn myself. Then I crunched up the bow a little bit more, added a little bit more hot glue, and I ended up with a nice and neat little bow. I trimmed the ends for it to be symmetrical with the other side, frayed it once again, and here we are going to be adding a little bit more embellishment. I took another red rose that I have left over from the Dollar Tree, from my pick in the Dollar Tree, and then removing the little extra piece from the top that will usually connect it to the stem. And I'm going to add some hot glue, and this rose is going to go right in the middle of my bow. And with this detail, my project is complete. Here it is. I really love it. I love that it's rustic, but at the same time it's delicate and romantic. I don't know, let me know which one is your favorite so far, and I hope that you are inspired to recreate this DIY. Now let's jump into DIY number 3. For this project, I used one of these slotted hearts from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to do another dry brush or thicker dry brush to it. I do it to the entire piece and just leaving some areas here and there with some paint. I painted the back and the front. Then I took some of my antique wax and I did it a very light distressing on the ends just to bring out some more character to this piece. I really like the dimension that dry brush and the ends give to different projects. I made sure to also dry brush the edges where the slots were to make sure that this was uniform. Friends, for this project we are recreating DIYs or projects seen by other creators and just giving it a special twist. And you will see my creators listed in my description box below. For this project, I'll be bringing in the roses and the burlap ribbon once again. The first thing that I did is I measured out my burlap ribbon, making sure that I had the right size, and then I'm cutting off that piece. Then once again, I am removing the stitching off this burlap ribbon. I did that with both the sides of the stitching. Friends, please don't forget to subscribe, send me a like, show me some love. I truly appreciate it. It is free and it means the world to me. Once the burlap was nice and frayed, I placed it back down on my heart, and I'm going to go ahead and flip it over, and I'm going to be hot gluing this to the back. Just make sure that everything is nice and straight before you do this, and be careful not to burn yourself. This project was inspired by Heidi Samboul. You will see the link to her video in my description box below. Once everything was nice and straight and I'm satisfied, I'm gonna come in with some of these red roses from the Dollar Tree. I got this during the fall time. I love the deep red that it has. And what I did is I took 2 pieces of, there was the smaller roses. I put them together with each other, and then I'm going to take some of that seam that I took off of the burlap ribbon, and I'm going to wrap it around the stem, covering both of the roses stems. I just secured everything with a little bit of hot glue and repeated this process until the entire stems were covered. I clipped off the little end of the stems, and I am going to be gluing down this to the burlap and to the heart slot as well. Once that was set, I took some loose roses. I trimmed off the extra piece, and I'm going to add some hot glue and glue them to each side of the roses. Once that hot glue dried, I added a little bit of hot glue in between the petals just to eliminate that gap that you see there and give this a little bit more of a full bouquet look. I took some of my jute cord, wrapped it around my hands a couple times to create a little bow. I tied it at the middle with some more jute cord, secured it with a little bit of hot glue, left the tails nice and loose, burned off all the straggly ends, and I'm going to be attaching this to the bottom part of my bouquet. And now it's time for a hanger. So I took some of these beads from the Dollar Tree that come as a garland, and I just added a little bit of hot glue to the end so it'll be easier for me to feed them through the little holes. And I looped it twice so I can create a bigger knot. Before I cut the beads off, I measured off to see how long I wanted this to hang, and I then made the decision at that point to cut the section that I needed to use so I can attach it to the other side. I fed the string through the back and did another knot and secured both of my knots with a tiny bit of hot glue. And I am not done yet. I took some of these rubbing transfers from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to apply them to different areas of this slats of the heart. And I'm going this to achieve a little bit of a romantic look and vintage feel. In the midst of me doing this, my transfer got stuck to my paper and took off a portion of my ribbon. I was so mad and sad, but hey, we had enough to finish this, thank goodness. So I just repeated this process with the rest of my heart. I just left the top section undone, but I did do it in all of the other slats. I did it on the outer piece and the complete bottom. I learned my lesson, and I put the backing of the transfer on top of my work area so that way I do not lose any more of this transfer. I'm in the final piece, and this is how it came out. I love this piece, guys. Again, the camera does not give it justice, so do it justice. It is gorgeous. I hope you guys like it too. DIY number 4 is a beaded garland. I took this garland from the Dollar Tree. I pull it apart, remove all the red beads out of there, and put aside the ones that had the natural wood, and I'm going to remove the medallion as well. I took this garland from the Dollar Tree as well and attached it to the medallion I took off from the other garland. Took some of this white chalk paint, and I'm going to be painting the beads that came originally from the first garland that I showed you. I put the beads on a skewer and I just painted them. I threaded 6 natural color beads and 1 white. I did this pattern until I was happy with the length of my garland. To make a tassel, I took some of my jute twine and I wrapped it in the long side of my sanding block. I just kept going around it for as many times as I thought was enough to create my tassel. But I was a little bit wrong with my judgment on here, but you'll see shortly what I did. I cut off my jute cord off the sanding block, making sure to hold it on the middle. Then I took the loose end of the garland to secure the middle part of this tassel. I just tied it as closely as I could to the beads, making sure that there was barely any gap, and tied it nice and tight. And this is the moment I realized I messed up. This tassel was too small. But we are going to figure something out to fix it. I made sure that the tassel was completely secure and as close to a bead as possible and trimmed off the excess there. Now we are going to work on making this tassel a little bit thicker. What I did is I just did the same thing that I did before with the sanding block, cut the excess off, trimmed them at the bottom, and kept holding the jute right on the middle. To fix my boo-boo, what I did is I took the tassel, the new tassel, and put it exactly against the other one long ways, making sure that everything matched up. And then I took another piece of jute cord and I tied that extra tassel material onto the original tassel to create a little bit more thickness. I made sure to double knot in order to make sure that nothing fall apart. I put the extra piece in the middle because it should be covered by all the other strings. I put everything nice and neat, stretched out the top, and now we are going to be wrapping the top section to create that tassel look. I took the jute cord, tied it nice and tight. I did 3 different knots, the last one being a double knot. And I'm going to take the jute cord and I'm going to wrap it multiple times in that section, and that's going to be covering up my my knots on there. So I put a little bit of hot glue and I just kept wrapping and wrapping and wrapping until I was happy with the depth or the thickness of my wrap job there. Then I took the little end, tucked it inside the other, added a little bit of hot glue to keep it in place, fluffed up my tassel, and pretty much set my tassel on fire, trying to remove all the little straggly ends. If you can see, there was a section there that got pretty burned up, but I got it extinguished. So please be very careful with this section. This part, I did want it a little bit charted, but I think I went a little bit too far, but it didn't matter because I had to trim those little ends anyway. And this is done. Here it is all completed. I love the way that everything with these projects tied together. I love the theme. I like the rustic and the red and the romantic feel. I love them all. Let me know which one is your favorite. And as always, thank you for watching. Be blessed, be a blessing, and craft responsibly. Here are my social media links if you'd like to follow me on there. And stay tuned for a video suggestion. Have a great day. Bye.